So, to begin, a little bit of an introduction to the next presentation, My Place, Your Place, is a perspective on the relationship between Indigenous and non-Indigenous peoples, how we have existed together, and how changes in the thinking of all people could lead to better relationships in the future. Travis's presentation will speak to the question, how should I think, act, or speak differently to improve our relationship in reference to all people? Travis Plaited Hair is a member of the tribe and is currently an elected member of the Blood Tribe Chief and Council. He is a former leader of the Sacred Horn Society. This society is part of the informal governance system that carries traditional culture and spiritual authorities with the Blackfoot culture. Good example, Sundance. Travis's career has involved working closely with many groups on issues that directly affect Southern Alberta's Indigenous population. Before being elected to council over the past 20 years, Travis has served as the executive director of the Lethbridge Friendship Society, as a liaison officer for the Blood Tribe, chief and council with the Lethbridge College, as an FNMI student advisor, and at Head Smashed in Buffalo Jump as a revenue generation officer and senior interpreter. Travis is an educator in cultural awareness, a role model, a mentor to Indigenous youth. He is passionate about helping young adults preserve their cultural beliefs and traditions while learning how to live healthy, productive lives both on and off the reserve. Welcome, Travis.
It's okay, I rode rodeo for 20 years, so that was nothing. But it is a little slippery there, so if you're coming up here, be careful. First of all, now I know how Custer felt. Little joke there. So I don't have a lot of time, so I'm going to get right into it here. I've been asked to speak to something in particular today. I usually do a lot of presentations for school groups, and especially with reconciliation these last few years. We've had to provide some education, whether it be to local organizations, school districts, the college, the university. So today was a little different. My place, your place. First of all, it's my place. No, just kidding. And welcome. And normally I like to speak towards educating everyone, including our people. Because just because you are a member of the Blood Tribe doesn't make you a Blood Tribe thinker or speaker. Unfortunately, a lot of our young people, my children included, don't speak Blackfoot and don't understand Blackfoot and are not aware of their own history. So you can't assume that just because you are native, you know everything there is to know about being a native. Lots of examples of that. Myself, fortunately, grew up at a time where the language was still spoken around the house, and we had very clear protocols in place on how we interact with our parents, our grandparents, our siblings, everyone. And you saw my big brother here, my uncle, my grandfather, my teacher, Charlie, who did the prayer earlier, my brother Dan Fox over here also. They're not blood relations, but they are extended family who over the years I've become very close to. So family is very important. So not only are we teaching those of you who want to have a better relationship with the Indigenous community, but we are also busy teaching our own people. And I only have a half an hour up here, so I'm going to try and solve all our world problems in 30 minutes. First of all, I noticed your little program here, and you have a dream catcher. In Blackfoot territory, there's no such thing as a dream catcher, because Blackfoots don't have bad dreams. But it is something that was gifted to us from our relatives back east, the Mohawk, the Anishinaabe and Manitoba area. But here in Blackfoot country, we don't have a dream catcher. So to get right into it, my place, your place. As you can tell, when I was introduced, some of my former employment, I was very lucky and fortunate to have worked where I have and have worked with the people that I have. I learned so much. I think the turning point would have been when I worked for the Headsmaster in Buffalo. You all know where the Headsmaster in Buffalo Jump is, obviously. UNESCO World Heritage Site. I worked there for about 6 years. And I worked under a lady who is unfortunately no longer with us, Lorraine Goodstriker, who was also a member of the societies, the sacred societies. And I learned so much from her and some of the other elders that worked there. But on the other hand, I had a gentleman by the name of Jack Brink, who was the head archaeologist that worked at Headsmaster in Buffalo Jump. So I had the privilege of working with a scientist, and I had the privilege of working with a grandmother who knew the old ways. So I would ask questions to the elders about our history, and then I would ask the archaeologists what their opinion was. And it was quite interesting, because everything kind of fit together. There's one of our elders, Mr. Wilton Goodstriker. I've heard him speak many times, and I have a lot of respect for him. And he once used the term "since time immortal," and he said in Blackfoot, he said, I finally got to the point where I had to use that word, because he didn't necessarily agree with it. And I was the same way too, since time immortal. Until I looked it up in the dictionary. We should all do some research. And I found out the true meaning of that is, it's so far back in time that you can't remember. That's what time immortal means. Whereas at the time, for me, it was like infinity. Yeah, right. My archaeologists over here, elders are telling me since time immortal, and the archaeologists telling me 9,000 years. So which is it? So now, including Wilton, we do use that term, because now we know what it means. I understand what it means. So since time immortal, my ancestors have occupied pretty much what is now Western Canada, the Blackfoot-speaking people. And today, there are 4 tribes that make up the Blackfoot Confederacy. There's, in the state of Montana, they're referred to as the Blackfeet, Amskapipikani. To the west of us here, along Pincher Creek, we have Apatsipikani, which is the Pagan. And then up east of Calgary, we have Siksika, Blackfoot. And of course, right across the river here, we have the Blood Tribe, where we're all from, and where the city of Lethbridge sits. So that is what we call the Blackfoot territory. We've been here, and that's why I go back to my days at the Blackfoot, Headsmaster in Buffalo. So I asked Lorraine, so how long we been here? And I asked a lot of other elders. We had to have arrived here at some point in history, just like you all did. We had to have arrived here too. When was that? And don't give me that, since time immortal, we've been here since infinity. Universe started at some point too. Those were just very specific questions that I was asking. And I finally got an answer from our elders. And they said, okay, Travis, based on all of our oral history, all of our ceremonies, everything that I've been told, everything that I'm aware of, I think we've been here anywhere between 5 to 10,000 years. Oh, okay. Makes sense. So I went to my archaeologist. So what do you say? Well, Travis, the oldest artifact that we found here at Headsmaston Buffalo Jump was carbon dated to 9,000 years. But they're not going to say it was you guys. It wasn't a blood tribe. They're just going to say people were here hunting over 9,000 years ago. So the elder said roughly 10, and the archaeologist said roughly 9. So that gives you a pretty good indication how long we've been here. Regardless of that, at some point, your ancestors arrived to this part of the world too. And we all move for reasons, just like our people. I have heard stories of our people that they migrated here from the Great Lakes area and settled here. Why? Why do you think? Anybody from here? You're from here. Why?
Nice farmland.
Yeah, agriculture. Anything else? What's that? It's warm. We're the only place in the world that has a Chinook. In the middle of winter, at the coldest point, the sun comes out and we all, our people love that. So I'm going to stick around here, So there's very good reasons why once we arrived here, we stayed here. This is God's country right here. And just like the people back east, back in the 80s, when the economy was good in Alberta, everybody moved to Alberta, right? There's reasons why people move. And it was no different for us. Now, everything I've said is my own personal view and opinion. I'm not saying that this is the position of the blood tribe or anybody else. These are just questions that I ask. Because our grandfathers always say, ask questions. So I did. I asked a lot of questions. Some of those guys are shut the door on me. They don't want to talk to me. But anyways, my point in all of this is we are all here now. And I think it's the same with any indigenous community throughout North America. We are all here together now. Now my work involves building relations. Every job that I've had involves building relationships. And most of it was done here in Lethbridge. I had the opportunity to work with 3 of the best mayors the city has ever known. Bob Tarlick, Chris Spearman, actually just 2. And you all saw the Okie thing there? A little history on that. It was Bob Tarlick who actually was the first one to introduce that. There are some current people who kind of take credit for that, but I was there. I was in the room. I belong to a group called Aboriginal Housing Society, which provides affordable housing for our indigenous population here in the city. And in our meetings, Bob Tarlick was the mayor of the time, and he always wanted to speak Blackfoot, so we always taught him a Blackfoot word at our meetings. And of course, he knew Okie right away. Okay, Tanitapi, how are you? So he was getting pretty good at it. And one day we were having supper there, and we had a break. And I told Bob, you know what we should do? And at the time, we were experiencing a little bit of a high level of racism here in the city. And we were trying to figure out ways of dealing with that. But one of the ideas that came to the floor, and I'm not going to say I brought it onto the floor, but it came onto the table, and the idea was, you know what? Okie is such a easy Blackfoot word to learn. Why can't we just use that? And it's spelt really simple too, and it means hello. So would it be cool if we were to get all the business people in the city of Lethbridge to use Okie as their official welcoming into their places of business? And everywhere for that matter. Just that simple word. When I get into a cab, and most of the cab drivers around here speak better Blackfoot than most of us, as soon as that person says Okie, it changes the way I think towards that person. Automatically. Just hearing that changes it. And when you say it to me first, that changes it even more, you know. It's just an awesome way. But that's where that started from. Bob Tarlick. Make a note of that, eh? So today, in the last couple of years, through reconciliation, the city adopted it officially. But they never mentioned Bob Tarlick or Travis Plaited Hair and the other people that sat in that room. But that's okay. The main thing is it got done. And I'm glad it did. It's a step in the right direction. So that is an example of my place, your place. That's when good heads get together. We have a common goal. Let's work on it. Put aside your differences and just work on ways of improving. So for me, I don't really care about the present population of the city of Lethbridge or southern Alberta. There are a lot of good people in this region that I have worked with, and I brag about them all the time. When I hear negative comments from my community, I always remind them, hold on, you can't put every citizen of Lethbridge in the same pot. I have worked with some really good people in the city I have respect for. So you shouldn't do that. But a lot of good work has been done, and there's a lot of work that needs to be done. So in the last few years with reconciliation, a lot of our communities, including myself, I look at it, it's government telling you what to do again. You shouldn't need government to tell you to get along, you know. Yes, there is, with Truth and Reconciliation, I don't even remember how many tasks were put on there. I'm not an expert at that because I don't spend a lot of time with it. I worry about the day-to-day and what we can do right now, not fulfilling another government document. But I think the city of Lethbridge, just in the last year, now that I'm on council, I've really, our chief, Roy Fox, McGeaniman, has kind of turned to me and said, well, you've established pretty good relations in the city. Why don't you take the lead in some of these projects? So we have a MOU with the city of Lethbridge, Memorandum of Understanding. And now all the surrounding communities that surround the tribe, Cardston, McGrath, Fort McLeod, Pincher Creek, they all want to come together and also put together. And we've been meeting. We've had some very successful meetings with them. So this presentation is a little out of my realm. I'm used to talking history, and that's what my my presentation I thought was going to be on, but that's okay. I wanted to show at least this individual right here. We learn a lot from our history, and this gentleman here is, we have lots of examples of great people within our tribe, but this is one in particular that our Chief McGeaniman, Chief Roy Fox, this is kind of his hero. And his Blackfoot name is, I always have a problem saying this, Stamitsauga, huh? Yeah. It's translated to buffalo bull back fat. And he is one of the more prominent leaders that our people had back in the day. And he's even, Chief even puts him on our business cards right here to remind us that you are a warrior and you are here to defend your people from everything. So that's what the chief is. So this individual here, I had some other slides. I don't know, did I bring that little gadget? I don't trust your steer. Watch that step. Got to be mindful of our time here. I got about, 10 minutes? Okay. I have some slides here that I like to show. This is my name was, as I mentioned, my name is Akayam Sineman. This is my great-great-grandfather right here. And he came from down south. He's a part of the Gross Ventures. So our history, my family history, goes back into what is now Montana. And that gentleman standing next to him, the little boy is about 12 years old, that's Bob Plaited Hair, Kuttu, or Apitistiman. That's who raised me. And though that standing by him, that's his father, Kayamstiniman. And the two ladies, I'm still doing research on who they are, but I haven't got that nailed down yet. I was going to say something. Oh yeah, my grandfather, Kuttu, who pretty much raised me. I had mentioned Indian residential school. I was very, very fortunate that I did not go to residential school because of Kuttu and his foresight. He knew that that wasn't good or wasn't going to turn out very good. So he kept me in his house. I eventually did go to St. Mary's just to play football. I took Dan Fox's number, by the way. And I played high school football and played some sports. But that was it. That was the extent of my experience with residential school. So I can't speak to that. However, I am a result of residential school in that my parents and everyone else who did experience a lot of negativity in their life because of residential school, I had to deal with a lot of issues myself. But thankfully, through our ways, when I say our ways, I mean the Blackfoot way and the teachings of my grandfather. And in his household, we never spoke English. We only spoke Blackfoot. And this is a picture taken, I would say around 1957. He was a big man, and I had a lot of respect for him. Another picture of him there. Just my other grandfather, Henry Standing Alone, the late Henry Standing Alone, and another cool individual. I don't have time to get into stories, and usually I give a presentation to some of our people that are at the Healing Lodge. Used to be called the St. Mary's Treatment Center. So I go there and I give a presentation on culture and how culture and our ways can help you change your life. That's my father, Pete Stang Alone. Very influential. And if you get a chance, Google Circle of the Sun National Film Board. He made 3 videos. One was the first one, 1957, called Circle of the Sun. It's about 30 minutes. Second one is called Standing Alone. That's when Prince Charles came to the Sundance, Kukatsin. And the last one was called The Last Roundup, I believe. But in the film Standing Alone, when Prince Charles was here, he said the tribe gifted Prince Charles with a headdress, a saddle, a horse, a pipe. There are lots of gifts for Prince Charles. And my dad kind of said, now I can tell I once made a saddle for a king. Well, that's going to happen tomorrow. He's going to be a king. so his dream came true. But as soon as that thing is done, I'm going to write to England and say, I want that saddle back. So, Sweat Lodge. I have a lot of slides here, and it's different. I don't have time to go through all of them. But for those of you who are not familiar, this is the pink area there is the Blood Tribe. It's Canada's largest Indian reserve, and you can see the city of Lethbridge is right there, the university. And over to the west there is the Piikani Nation. And then down south is the Montana. So I use this because sometimes I do presentations for students, international students, and they don't really know the region, but this is a good map. These are flags of the Blackfoot. Now here is the Blackfoot Confederacy. This is what I was talking about earlier. This is sort of recognized in our oral history as what we would consider the Blackfoot Territory. And as you can see, there's the Canada-U.S. border. The Canada-U.S. border there. And up there is Edmonton, and that's the North Saskatchewan River, and all the way down to the Yellowstone and right into Saskatchewan. And of course, the Rocky Mountains making up the western border. So this has kind of been recognized as the Blackfoot territory. But here's an older map. This was, there is a year here somewhere. So look at how big that territory is. And that is based on oral history, all kinds of documentation. So you can see that the Blackfoots controlled pretty much all of Western Canada and almost all of Montana at one time. I can get into a lot of detail, but I won't have time. This is a picture of our signing of the treaty. Here are all the other treaties throughout Canada. And you can see in this map, the Blackfoots were the last to sign treaty with, while Canada didn't even exist at that time, it would be Britain. We actually signed treaties with the United States before we signed treaties with the British. Two of our most prominent leaders, Red Crow and Crowfoot. The picture in the middle is the straight-up headdress, which is significant only to the Blackfoot people. We have had different names. One of them is one that you hear nowadays is Apetsitapi. Apetsitapi basically means weasel people. And so we don't give ourselves names. We have people that call us different names. So other tribes would recognize us as Apetsitapi because you see the weasel tails there. So all their warrior shirts would all have the weasel tails and of course their headdress. We had a straight up headdress. The Sioux gifted us the straight sway back headdress. So I won't go into too much here, but there's some pictures. Oh, that's me last weekend. No. And that's me again. There's a lot of awesome pictures. This is what I wanted to show you guys. Akukatsin. Akukatsin to me is the true identity of the blood tribe. That is who we are. That is, the Akukatsin basically translated is big camp, but it's more than that. My uncle Charlie mentioned the Horn Society. This is when all the societies come together and they have their ceremonies, and it happens every summer. We're getting ready for it soon. And this is where we go to be Blackfoot, to be Kainai. And this is an older picture. This one was taken in 2013, I believe. And that's when I was personally transferred into the society. And there's over 200 teepees there. And if you watch the movie, my father and some of the elders made some predictions on how long this would be, that would be with us. And they lied, thankfully. They weren't correct. They said 10, 20 years. Well, it's 2023. We're still going, and it's getting bigger. More and more of our young people are getting involved and going back to our ways. So when you talk about my place, your place, it's all our place. As long as you understand, we understand each other. And we're, I always hear we're all the same. No, we're not all the same. We are different. But we are all human beings. And we are put on this earth to take care of it. And this gathering, that's what it's about. Circle of life, continuous. And that's where the blood tribe goes to practice our ways. They're still strong. This ceremony, this gathering, has gone on since time immemorial. Okay? As far back as we can tell. Has never stopped. The pandemic was mentioned earlier. The year at its peak of the pandemic, when government, and including our own government, was telling us to stay home, Don't do this, don't do that. I got a call from some of the elders. They said, we need your opinion. What's going to happen? And I'll be honest with you, I was scared. I didn't know what to say. But somebody said, you know what? We've gone through hell and back as a people. We've survived wars. We've survived residential school. We've survived it all. What's the difference here? What, is you going to make this stop you? No. Just keep going. So we had camp. And I'm happy to say that there was not one single evidence or no one caught COVID during that time. And we had over 4,000 people there. That's the strength. That's how powerful and that's how the strength of our ways are when you truly believe and follow it. So I was happy. I had a big, I just about had a beer because I was worried that many people at the peak of the pandemic. But we exercised good precaution. We had our health people there. We had all kind of things in place. But at the end of the day, that many people, when everybody in the world was hiding in their houses, we were out doing our ceremonies. And I'm happy to report everything went good. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, I know we're going to have a little bit of time. I wasn't able to get into everything that I would like to and normally do, but that's okay. We have a Q&A later on with the other two speakers, and I'll be more than happy to answer to the best of my ability any questions you may have. Enjoy your stay in our place. Skidamatzen.